Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Thank you for joining us today. Indonesia just did something no one saw coming. A $9 billion deal with China for 42 J-10C fighter jets. And the entire Indo-Pacific is suddenly paying attention. This isn't just another arms purchase. It's a strategic power play that could rewrite Southeast Asia's air dominance for the next 2 decades.
Yeah.
But why is Indonesia turning away from the West and betting its future on China's jet fighters? What's really behind this move and what happens next might surprise you.
Our mission today, well, it's to unpack this huge $9 billion acquisition. It's actually the largest single defense deal in Indonesian history. And we need to analyze the pretty profound geopolitical ripple effects that are already shaking things up.
Absolutely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, this is so much more than just updating their planes. This is really a pivotal moment for Indonesia's military. It signals a very decisive commitment to strategic flexibility and, crucially, autonomy in the Indo-Pacific. They're basically saying they won't be tied to the whims of just one superpower bloc anymore. Okay, so let's unpack the necessity behind it. You don't just drop $9 billion unless you really, really have to, right?
Right.
Our sources are highlighting that the Indonesian Air Force, the TNI-AU, they've been, well, kind of limping along with some really old platforms. We're talking F-16ABs, Russian Su-27SKs.
Yeah, aircraft from the 80s and 90s.
Exactly. Introduced way back then. They're simply getting near the end of their operational life. It's creating serious gaps, both in safety and capability.
That's the technical side, definitely. But the deeper issue is logistics. Their operational readiness was apparently collapsing. They faced what the reports call persistent logistical constraints, a dramatic lack of spare parts.
And why was that?
Well, largely because of export restrictions and, frankly, political pressure from their traditional suppliers, especially in the West.
Okay, so it wasn't just old age, it was a supply chain crisis, too.
Precisely. A supply chain nightmare, really.
That history of frustration, that seems key then. President Prabowo Subianto's administration, they've really pushed defense modernization as a core focus, and specifically emphasizing, they must diversify their suppliers so they aren't held hostage by politics again.
And diversify they certainly did with this move. This deal, it's with China's Chengdu Aerospace Corporation. It's for 42 J-10 multi-role fighter jets. And that price tag is staggering, $9 billion US.
$9 billion?
Yeah, which they seem to be securing through some favorable credit facilities from Beijing itself.
That number alone makes it the biggest single defense purchase they've ever made. And think about the significance there. Indonesia is now set to become only the 3rd country in the world operating the J-10. Just China and Pakistan otherwise.
That's a very exclusive club.
So if they're spending this much, what are they getting? What capabilities does this J-10C bring that they couldn't get elsewhere, maybe cheaper or from traditional partners?
Well, the Chengdu J-10C, it's often called China's 4.5th generation fighter. It's genuinely pitched as one of the most capable non-stealth fighters out there today.
Okay, 4.5 gen. So a real leap.
It's a definite leap for the TNI-AU, yes. It represents China's mature avionics technology. And what's fascinating technically is the engine. It uses the domestically produced Taihang WS-10B that replaces the older Russian AL-31FN engines they used before.
So China's showing off its own engine tech now.
Exactly. It's China signaling its own near-complete self-sufficiency in high-performance jet engines, a big step for them.
And critically, the sensors must be part of the package too, an EESA radar.
Yes, precisely. A modern, active, electronically scanned array radar. That's critical. It gives the J-10C a detection range reported to be over 200 kilometers, and it can track up to 10 targets at the same time.
Wow, 200-kilometer range and 10 targets. That level of situational awareness, it sounds like it matches or maybe even exceeds some Western fighters currently in service.
It certainly puts it in the top tier for non-stealth platforms, yes.
But, okay, radar's one thing. The real teeth of any fighter comes down to its weapons, its missile loadout. This is where the competitive edge really lies for Indonesia, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The armament package is key. It includes the PL-10, which is a capable short-range missile. But the real strategic game changer is the PL-15 long-range missile.
The PL-15. Okay, tell us about that. Why is it so significant?
Well, this missile is believed to have a really impressive attack range, somewhere between 200 and possibly even 300 kilometers.
200 to 300 kilometers. Okay, put that in perspective for us. Why does that range matter so much compared to, say, standard Western missiles?
It matters because it creates a powerful area denial capability. The standard Western equivalent is the AMRAAM, the Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile.
Right, the AMRAAM.
It's extremely capable, don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
older versions and even some modern ones, they typically top out around, say, 100, maybe 150 kilometers.
To double the range, potentially.
Potentially, yes. By fielding the PL-15, the J-10C lets Indonesia create these vast no-fly zones around sensitive areas. Think like the Natuna Islands. They can do this without their fighters ever having to enter the potential engagement range of an opponent's aircraft. It effectively keeps threats at arm's length.
That's a huge strategic advantage.
And it does all this while being, presumably, more cost-effective than buying true fifth-gen jets like the F-35.
That seems to be the calculation, yes. It's significantly more affordable than an F-45A or Russia's Su-57E. The course has also mentioned that the Chinese offered not just attractive pricing, but also lower long-term maintenance requirements. So the whole life cycle cost looks better.
Lower running costs, too.
Which makes a difference on a budget. There was also a slightly odd note in the sources referencing an unconfirmed combat record during a supposed 2025 Kashmir conflict.
Wait, 2025, that hasn't happened.
Exactly. It suggests we need to be careful with some of the intelligence or marketing leaks here. But the point is, China's marketing this as a proven, reliable platform, not some prototype. Okay, that cost comparison, the capability, it makes the financial and technical argument clearer. But let's pull back to the bigger picture. If it's this good and relatively cheap, why didn't they buy it years ago? Let's tackle the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Why is Indonesia now consciously turning away from the West, its historical supplier?
Yeah, this is the absolute core of the geopolitical story here. Indonesia, well, they've been down this road before. They are actively trying to reduce their dependence because they've faced, time and again, export restrictions, frustrating supply delays, and politically motivated pressure.
Particularly from Washington and Brussels.
Yes. If you look back, the U.S. imposed military embargoes after events in East Timor in the 90s. That forced Jakarta to turn to Russia for planes like the Su-27 back then. And when they tried to re-engage seriously with the West later on, they often found political conditions attached to sales, human rights concerns, things like that.
So this isn't some sudden ideological pivot towards China. It's more driven by a history of, let's say, transactional pain and frustration with Western suppliers.
I think that's a fair assessment. It looks like pragmatism born from frustration. It leads them towards an easier, faster supplier who offers the tech without those strings.
And this aligns perfectly with Indonesia's long-standing foreign policy doctrine, doesn't it? The free and active policy.
Exactly. That doctrine explicitly means they refuse to be neatly drawn into an East-West divide. This purchase is a very practical demonstration of strategic autonomy. It shows that if one partner applies unwelcome political pressure, Jakarta will simply turn to another who meets their needs.
And a decision like this, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It must be sending shockwaves across the region. If we connect this back out, this move instantly challenges the long-standing dominance of Western defense giants in Southeast Asia, a market usually owned by Dassault, Boeing, Lockheed Martin.
Oh, it's a huge shift, a major geopolitical statement. And strategically on the ground, this J-10C capability significantly boosts Indonesia's power to control its own vast airspace, especially, as we mentioned, around the resource-rich Natuna Islands.
Right, which China also keeps an eye on.
Precisely. That area sees constant Chinese maritime and air patrols, even though it's clearly Indonesian territory under international law. Having a credible long-range deterrent like the J-10C is essential for them to demonstrate sovereignty there.
So Indonesia gains defensive muscle, but Beijing gains influence at the same time.
That's the other side of the coin, yes. The agreement definitely deepens Beijing's diplomatic clout and soft power across ASEAN. It showcases China as a reliable, affordable, and technologically advanced provider. That's a powerful narrative for other regional nations looking to modernize their own forces.
Especially if they face similar budget constraints or political hurdles with Western suppliers.
Exactly.
But anytime a major regional power like Indonesia makes a move this bold, the neighbors must be getting a bit twitchy. What are the concerns being raised by analysts in nearby countries?
Oh, the concerns are definitely there, and they're quite varied. For Indonesia's Western partners, analysts worry about interoperability. How do you integrate complex Chinese systems into joint exercises with, say, U.S. or Australian forces? It becomes a massive technical headache.
Right. Different data links, different operating philosophies.
Exactly. And then there are the persistent concerns about cyber vulnerabilities. Are there backdoors in Chinese avionics or data link systems? That question hangs over any deal like this.
And the immediate neighbors. How are Malaysia and Singapore taking this?
Well, reports suggest Malaysia and Singapore are monitoring this very, very closely. They're particularly looking at the J-10C's ability, with that PL-15 missile, to potentially establish no-fly zones,
Hmm.
especially over key shipping lanes like the Straits of Malacca.
That would directly impact Singapore's economy, wouldn't it?
Hugely, Singapore relies heavily on open sea lanes and trade. This fundamentally changes the air superiority calculus in their immediate neighborhood.
Meanwhile, countries that have more direct friction with Beijing, I'm thinking the Philippines, Vietnam, they must see Indonesia's move somewhat differently, perhaps with suspicion.
They absolutely do. From their perspective, Indonesia's choice might look highly pragmatic for Jakarta, but it's also a risky gamble for the region. Their main concern is that by integrating Chinese platforms so deeply, Indonesia might inadvertently undermine ASEAN cohesion. That unity is needed, they argue, to effectively push back against China's broader assertiveness in the South China Sea.
It complicates the regional picture, definitely.
It adds another layer of complexity, yes.
Okay, this all kind of leads us to the broader strategic context here. Indonesia's rather unique defense doctrine. This J-10C deal is a huge piece, but it sits alongside others from completely different places.
Yes, this is where we see their multi-vector defense policy in action. Jakarta is deliberately, almost painstakingly, balancing relationships and technologies. Think about it. They're operating the French Rafale. They have a co-development deal with Turkey for the KF 5th Gen jet. They're heavily invested in the KF-21 program with South Korea. And now they've added China's J-10C to that mix.
So Indonesia is going to be one of the only countries on Earth operating advanced fighters from three completely distinct defense ecosystems at the same time: Western, Asian, and Chinese.
Pretty much, yes. It's a fascinating, if complex, approach.
Yeah, but hang on a second. Doesn't managing three totally separate logistical chains, Chinese parts, French parts, Korean parts, Turkish parts, eventually create an absolute nightmare? Training, maintenance, supply.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that complexity actually reduce overall combat readiness?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? And it highlights the strategic bet Indonesia is making. They seem to believe that this defense pluralism, as some call it, is worth the undeniable logistical chaos it creates.
Why? What's the payoff for that headache?
The payoff is strategic leverage. By operating these diverse fleets, they ensure that no single power, not the U.S., not Europe, not China, can cripple their air force by simply cutting off spares or support due to political disagreement.
Maximum independence.
Exactly. It
Right.
maximizes their diplomatic room to maneuver. And it potentially speeds up modernization because they aren't stuck in the often lengthy procurement queues or subject to the political conditions sometimes imposed by traditional allies. It's the ultimate expression of strategic neutrality through hardware diversity.
Okay, let's quickly touch on the economic side, too. $9 billion is huge. What kind of industrial package did they manage to secure along with the jets themselves?
Well, the deal is described as comprehensive. It goes beyond just the aircraft. It includes integrated logistics support, which is vital, also advanced simulator systems for training, and of course, pilot and ground crew training packages.
Any technology transfer involved? That's usually key for countries like Indonesia.
Crucially, yes. There are apparently ongoing negotiations specifically about technology transfer. The goal is to allow at least limited domestic maintenance and repair work. This would be done through PT Dirgantara Indonesia or PTDI, their state-owned aerospace company.
Right, building up their own industry.
Exactly. It supports that long-term national ambition of becoming a more self-reliant defense manufacturer and reducing dependence on foreign contractors, even for basic upkeep.
And finally, the financing. How does a country budget for $9 billion, that's about 1.2% of their projected 2025 GDP, for one purchase?
The key seems to be favorable credit terms. Beijing is reportedly offering low-interest credit facilities, most likely channeled through something like the Export-Import Bank of China. This makes the whole deal financially very competitive, maybe even irresistible compared to Western offers that might demand cash up front or have stricter lending conditions.
So China's using financial leverage effectively, too.
Very effectively. Tying the financing directly to a modern, capable product is a major advantage they wield in these kinds of global competitions.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the final takeaway here?
The J-10C acquisition, really, it's a major geostrategic statement. It signals that Indonesia is absolutely determined to chart its own course amid these rising Indo-Pacific tensions. They're building a flexible, resilient, hybrid defense architecture by deliberately mixing and matching capabilities to secure their independence.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. Given this global trend we're seeing, where middle powers are actively seeking advanced military tech, but without the political strings often attached by traditional suppliers, could Indonesia's multi-vector approach, this bold mixing of Chinese, Western, and Asian systems, actually become the new standard defense model for other non-aligned nations trying to navigate the great power competition? Something to ponder as these new jets take to the skies over the archipelago. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this has given you a clearer picture of the magnitude and the many implications of Indonesia's significant strategic defense shift. We invite you to watch or listen to the other deep dives we prepared for you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode. See you in the next one.